we've got time for some questions, definitely. Fabulous, really. I think it speaks very clearly to the importance of individualized treatment and really involving a person in their rehabilitation and in the strategy and in giving them the control over what they're doing, which I think is a fabulous way forward. Questions? So I'm going to start. Oh, okay, but yeah. Whilst you're getting the microphone, the issue, I mean, I was interested that you do some tweaking, I guess, at the lever, and you sort of experiment and see what else might be working. Is that what you do, etc.? So I'm wondering about that and how you then implement that. And then what happens when you go out to deliver this to a new service, perhaps in another country or whatever? How much modification and adaptation do you require within a particular setting?
So I guess the fundamental question there is how does one keep treatment fidelity when there's constant changes? And so the treatment fidelity, as far as I'm concerned, is fidelity to promoting autonomous learning, treatment fidelity to promoting a motivating learning environment. So those are the things that really matter to me when I think about treatment fidelity. Treatment fidelity should be promoting cognition as it relates to recovery goals, all right? So you can also, of course, think about the specifics of a treatment, and we do, if somebody says that they're doing the near approach, and I find out that they only gave 9 sessions scattered over 3 months, I'd say, well, that isn't the near approach because it's not consistent with our understanding of how people learn, okay? So, the approach is advocating that we consider scientific principles of learning. But you also asked, how do I deal with new information? I have a colleague who's constantly telling me that the root problem of people with schizophrenia and their cognition is that they have impaired early auditory processing, and he's passionate about this. And so I want to know about it, and so now I do research on that. As it turns out, he's right, 50% of people have very impaired early auditory processing. And so, it gets me thinking, well, what can we do about this? So within the NEAR model, we have been figuring out how to test for early auditory processing deficits and what are the best ways to address it. And so that's a way to bring in the research and not lose treatment fidelity.
Fantastic. I know we have some other questions, I think.
Hello. My name is Ellen Stroschneder. I'm an occupational therapist from the Wise Ways to Work team in North Melbourne in Victoria. Thank you so much, Alice, for such an interesting talk and also about the music model of motivation, such a practical way of implementing that into cognitive remediation. I know we're taking mad notes over here to take back, but I've got a specific question about towards the end of your presentation, you mentioned the therapist's observations of their participants' improvements, around the clinic and out in the community. I wanted to know whether there is a difference between what the therapist perceives as the person's improvements in functioning community and what the person themselves sees as their improvements. Because I know insight might have a part to play in this as well, and different perspectives. So just wanted to know your opinion on that.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it sort of gets to the root of the language we use, and do we have a shared vocabulary about cognition? And we don't. I mean, and I can't tell you how problematic that is, that we don't have a shared vocabulary about cognition and actually about recovery in some ways, and so I think, I think that's something that we need to aspire to and that we can all work towards. But in terms of the very specifics, when I ask clients, what is it that you find helpful here? They say things like, well, my memory's better, or I'm better able to get along with others because now I pay attention when they talk. I collect, I have a large collection of what people say, and I don't think there are huge differences, in fact, between what the clinicians say and what the participants say. But I think there may be differences sometimes in what people value and what they highlight. And that's why it's so important to have those shared decision-making discussions so that everybody's on the same page. Mm.
Any final questions? Time for one more. Yep.
That's it.
Thanks, Alice. I'm really interested in the autonomous learning model, and particularly as the choice and control issues pertain to citizenship and human rights. And the human rights agenda, I think, has been developing in parallel in mental health. And I guess this is sort of an evidence base for why the human rights agenda should keep going. I just wonder if you want to comment on that.
I think I'd be a bit out of my league. It's such a
We're all
large
out of our
area.
league.
But I guess you're sort of talking about the importance of autonomy more generally, and yes, you know, there are all kinds of benefits to promoting autonomy, and I guess you're hearkening to some of the broader social issues. But I don't want to stray too far afield, and so I'm going to stay a little bit closer to the actual cognitive remediation. Mm-hmm.
I think the counterpart of that is that this provides some indications of an evidence base for some of the human rights concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking Alice for a great talk.